Welcome. Tonight, let us leave behind the rush of the present day. Allow your thoughts to slow, your breath to settle, and your eyes, if they wish, to close. You're invited on a quiet journey through the Roman world, a place of marble temples, clinking sandals on stone streets, of vast blue seas and distant drums. But this journey doesn't begin in the grandeur of palaces or forums. Instead, we start deep below deck, in the dim, suffocating world of a Roman slave galley. As we drift through time, we'll pass through 4 scenes from the ancient world, each one gently unspooling like a forgotten scroll. First, the slow agony of rowing through endless days. Then, the quiet rise and fall of a gladiator named Spartacus. Later, we'll wonder at the mysteries of Roman harbors that still endure. And finally, we'll end our night in the hush of a senator's villa where time, like water in the garden pool, barely ripples. So settle in. Let the world of ancient Rome wrap softly around you. The night is long and history is slow. Imagine yourself waking in darkness. Not the kind of darkness that fades with sunrise, but a heavy, permanent gloom, thick with salt, wood smoke, and sweat. You are chained, along with many others, to a long wooden bench inside the belly of a Roman galley. It is still early. The sea outside is just beginning to stir. But down here, time is not measured in hours or days. Time is counted in strokes. The deck above groans faintly, rocking with the rhythm of the waves. Every now and then, a faint breeze slips through the open hatches, but it is not enough to clear the thick air. The galley does not sail by wind. It sails by the will and muscle of those like you. Slaves, rowers, condemned men, chained not only to your bench, but to a life of motion without destination. Your morning, if it can be called that, begins with a ladle of water, warm from the heat of the ship, and a bowl of cold gruel, thick with husks. There is no ceremony, no greeting, only the low mutter of oarsmen and the ever-present creak of ropes and beams above. Then the drum begins, boom, boom, each beat a command, each thud a summons. You lean forward, oar in hand, and begin to pull. The oar is rough and splintered, its handle smoothed only by the hands of those who pulled before you. You cannot see the sea, only the flicker of torchlight and the hunched backs of the men in front of you. And so you row. You row through the hours of the morning, through heat that soaks your tunic, through sweat that stings your eyes. Your muscles ache, not the sharp ache of a single strain, but the dull, deep soreness of a body that never truly rests. The kind of tiredness that never leaves. It only shifts some days, the galley coasts slowly. On those days, the drum slows, and the oars dip lazily in and out of the water, like the breath of a sleeping beast. But other days, the rhythm quickens. The orders barked from above come faster. Your shoulders burn, blisters open, and the only thing louder than the drum is the sound of wood striking water in perfect, pitiless unison. You are not alone. There are dozens like you. Men from across the empire. Gauls, Greeks, Nubians, Syrians. Some criminals, some simply conquered. You may not share a language, but all of you share this, the oar, the chain, and the beat. Sometimes you hear the sea, if only faintly. The slap of waves, the calls of gulls. They remind you of the world above. A world where the sun shines on your skin, where a breeze carries the scent of olives and earth, not mildew and iron. But for now, that world is distant. There is no privacy, no dignity. It is impossibly vast, a blue so wide it makes your ribs ache. You almost forget the pain in your arms. Almost, and then the whistle, the drum, and you return below to row again and again and again. Even in sleep when it comes, your hands twitch. Your arms remember the rhythm. The galley is a world unto itself, a floating prison, a machine made of flesh and timber. No stories are told here, no records are kept of those who row. But they moved an empire, each stroke forgotten, each man nameless. But they kept the ships moving, through war, through trade, through time. And so tonight you drift with them, forward and forward again, endlessly. Boom, boom, let the rhythm carry you, let the sea cradle you. And when the oar finally stills, a new story will begin. Imagine now a different place. The clatter of chains fades. The sea gives way to dry soil, to sand and stone, to the hushed murmur of an amphitheater waking with the sun. The crowd is not yet seated, the vendors not yet shouting, but beneath the arena, below the arena's weight and silence, a man stirs. His name is Spartacus. You have heard of him before, perhaps only as a whisper of rebellion, a name carved into popular myth. But before the rebellion, before the sword and the stories, he was simply a man, a Thracian, a soldier, a prisoner, and then a gladiator. Spartacus was not born into chains. He grew up in the rough hills of Thrace, what is now parts of Bulgaria and Greece. His early life is dimly lit by the records, but we know this. He was once a free man. He fought for Rome as an auxiliary, and then something changed. Some say he deserted. Others say he was captured. But by the time he is next seen in history, he has been sold to a ludus, a gladiator training school near Capua. Imagine him there, a man who had once marched with legions, now beaten, trained, fed for combat, not in battlefields but in arenas, not for duty but for spectacle. At the ludus, life is structured. Days are long, training is brutal. Weapons are blunted, but the blows are not. You eat, you train, you wait. Each fight is a test not only of skill, but of spectacle. The crowd must cheer, your owner must profit. But Spartacus, it seems, never lost his sense of self. He watched, he waited, he planned. By 73 BCE, Spartacus had formed a bond with other fighters, Gauls, Greeks, and Romans alike. Together they stole kitchen tools and fought their way free. Their first act of rebellion, breaking out of the training school with cleavers and skewers. They raided wagons for real weapons. They fled to the slopes of Mount Vesuvius. It was not a large force at first. A few dozen men, then a few hundred, then thousands, slaves, farmers, deserters, shepherds, all drawn to the promise of something rare in Roman life, freedom. And yet, Spartacus was not reckless. He was not merely a brawler turned rebel. Ancient sources hint at a quiet intelligence. He chose his battles carefully. He trained his growing army in Roman military formations. He outmaneuvered seasoned commanders. He knew how the legions moved because he had once moved with them. For nearly 2 years, Rome failed to contain him. His army swelled, tens of thousands strong. And not only men, women, children, entire households fleeing bondage, but freedom is not simple. And neither was leadership. Some of Spartacus's followers wanted to sack Rome, others to flee over the Alps and disappear into the provinces. We do not know what Spartacus truly intended. He may have longed only for home, or he may have glimpsed something more, a world without chains. But Rome could not allow that vision. Not in whispers, not in stories, and certainly not in flesh and blood. In 71 BCE, the Roman general Crassus, one of the wealthiest men in the Republic, was given command. His campaign was ruthless. He built walls to trap Spartacus's forces in the south. He crucified escapees. He offered no clemency. Spartacus broke through once, but the end was closing in. The final battle came somewhere near the Sila River. Tens of thousands fought. Few names were recorded. Spartacus was said to have fought bravely, charging into the fray to reach Crassus himself. But he did not survive. His body was never found, only his silence. In the aftermath, Rome crucified over 6,000 of Spartacus's followers along the Appian Way, the long, straight road into the heart of the Republic. A message written not in ink, but in flesh. A line of death that stretched for miles, a warning to the living. And yet, Spartacus was never forgotten, not because he won, he did not, but because he resisted, because he dared to imagine something else. A life not lived in chains, but chosen by one's own will. So tonight, as you rest, let your thoughts drift to that hillside near Vesuvius, to a firelit camp, to a man sharpening a blade not for spectacle, but for freedom. A man who spoke softly, planned carefully, and moved like someone who remembered what it meant to be free. The drums have gone quiet, the sand has settled, and Spartacus, though gone, still walks gently through history. No, Bruce, we leave behind the clamor of rebellion and step into something quieter, much quieter. The splash of gentle waves, the smell of brine and stone, the rhythm of sea foam brushing against worn pilings. You are standing at the edge of a Roman harbor, a harbor that somehow, after 2,000 years, still holds. Its breakwaters remain firm, its piers strangely intact. Even as the sea churns and gnaws, it does not fall. And that is the mystery. How did they build it? And why did their secrets disappear? It was not poured by trucks, nor mixed in bright orange drums. Instead, it was crafted, patiently, almost alchemically, by hand. The recipe, a blend of volcanic ash, lime and seawater, pumice and rock fragments added for body. Nothing modern. And yet, somehow, it endures where modern concrete crumbles. When exposed to salt water, this mixture doesn't weaken, it strengthens. Minerals form within its cracks, like veins of quartz in a mountain. These minerals reinforce the structure naturally, growing over time. The Romans may not have known exactly why this happened, but they noticed it, they used it, and they built with a kind of long patience we rarely see now. Imagine the construction of a Roman port. You hear the splash of heavy stones lowered into the sea by crane, the scrape of timber, the call of orders across scaffolding. Ash and lime are mixed in wide, shallow troughs by laborers in tunics, their feet powdered white by dust. The ash comes from Pozzuoli near Naples, where volcanic soils are rich in aluminosilicates, hence the name pozzolanic concrete. The builders pour the mixture into wooden molds, lowered underwater by divers and barges. They work slowly, layer by layer, watching the concrete harden, not in spite of the seawater, but because of it. In places like Cosa, Portus, and Caesarea Maritima, these harbors are still visible. Their seawalls sit below the surface, mossy and barnacled but unbroken. Modern engineers puzzle at this. The Romans, with no rebar, no synthetic polymers, built marine structures that outlast modern equivalents. How? For centuries their secret was forgotten, lost in the fall of empire, the slow decay of literacy and trade. As Rome receded, so did its knowledge. The ingredients remained, ash, lime, seawater, but the subtle art of their combination faded. It was not until the late 20th and early 21st centuries that researchers began to rediscover what Roman builders may have instinctively understood. Microscopic studies of ancient Roman marine concrete revealed a phenomenon called autogenous healing, a process by which cracks in the structure react chemically with seawater, forming new crystals. These crystals bind the concrete more tightly than before, a structure that heals itself, quietly, slowly, over time, like a shell thickening, like coral growing. And yet these ports were more than just technological marvels. They were thresholds, places where ships arrived from Syria, Gaul, Egypt, and Spain, where goods were weighed and languages blended. Here you would find sacks of grain, amphorae filled with olive oil, rolls of dyed linen, even live animals, tethered and blinking in the sunlight after long voyages. The harbor was where empire became real, where law met labor, where wealth passed through calloused hands. And beneath it all, the concrete held, through earthquakes, through tides, through centuries of silence. So tonight, if your mind drifts, let it drift like a barge across that ancient harbor, gently rocking, crews murmuring in Latin, Greek, and Phoenician, ropes creaking softly against the current. Beneath your feet, stone and ash, formed by heat, patience, and purpose, stronger than time. Sleep, like concrete, is a kind of quiet setting, layered, mineral, enduring. Let it hold you. The sea is far behind us now. The dust of rebellion has settled, and the distant hum of port life fades away. We arrive at last in a place of stillness, of calm, of quiet dignity, a Roman villa belonging to a senator of the late Republic. It is early morning, and the sun is beginning to trace golden lines across the polished floor of the atrium. Water ripples gently in the central pool, the impluvium, which collects rain from the square opening in the ceiling above. The air is cool and scented faintly with laurel and beeswax. This is not a place of urgency. Time here moves deliberately. measured not by the beat of drums or the clash of weapons, but by routine, ritual, and the low murmur of voices in marble halls. Imagine yourself waking in a guest room. The bedding is made of soft wool, and the floor beneath your sandals is a mosaic of tiny, intricate tiles, scenes of gods, vines, and sea creatures. Servants pass silently in the corridors, drawing back curtains to let the light filter in. In the atrium, your host, a senator of considerable influence, begins his day, not with action, but with reception. This is the salutatio, the morning greeting. Clients, allies, and petitioners arrive. Each bows in respect. Some seek favors, others offer information or loyalty. This ritual is not rushed. It is an unspoken agreement, an ancient code of obligation and patronage. You sit quietly, observing. The senator nods, listens, and occasionally gives instructions in a calm, deliberate voice. His toga, carefully arranged, is crisp and heavy with folded dignity. Once this audience ends, the house quiets again, and you follow him through a shaded colonnade to the peristyle garden. Here flowers bloom in neat rows, fountains burble, birds call softly from fig trees. Scrolls are brought out, histories of Livy, perhaps, or the letters of Cicero. A Greek tutor discusses philosophy in low tones. His gaze drifts often to the olive trees outside. Conversation is hushed and time floats. As the sun begins to set, the villa glows with lamplight. Dinner, the cena, is more elaborate. Reclined on cushioned couches in the triclinium, guests are served in multiple courses. Boiled eggs with sauces, stuffed dormice, fruits soaked in honey, but the food is not the point. This is a social rite, a performance of wealth and connection. Poetry may be read aloud. A philosopher may be invited to speak. Children might sing softly from a side room. Laughter is quiet, and the night grows gentle. Eventually the guests depart, the halls dim, and the senator retreats to his study. One last scroll, one last note, and then sleep. He does not fear the drums of war. He does not row, he does not run. His world is ordered, his days structured, his evenings scented with myrrh and lavender. But even in all this calm, there is something universal, the human need to rest, to close the eyes, to drift. And so he does, and so do you. Let your mind rest in the stillness of the villa, in the rustle of linen robes, in the soft light of oil lamps, in the quiet hush of a garden at night. Time slips past, like water in the fountain. The villa sleeps, Rome sleeps, and soon, so will you. And now, the journey is complete. You've traveled far, not by chariot or sea, but by story. From the harsh, brine-soaked benches of a Roman galley, to the quiet defiance of Spartacus in the hills, to the whispering waves around ancient harbors, and finally, to the shaded porticos of a senator's villa, where the soft murmur of fountains echoes like time itself. You've felt the heat, the weight, the wonder. You've glimpsed the empire, not in marble or glory, but in its rhythms, its people, as its unspoken truths. Some lived by the lash, some by the pen, some by silence, all within Rome's vast embrace. And yet here you are, safe still, far from the sea's pull, far from the arena, far from the burdens of empire. The world around you is quiet now, as it should be. Let the voices of the past soften into murmurs. Let the creak of oars become the lull of breath. Let the oil lamps go out one by one. You are not rowing, you are not waiting for battle. You are not burdened by marble halls or grain ledgers. You are simply resting as they once did. The empire sleeps, and now, so can you. Good night.